We're here in the beautiful Amsterdam at Money 2020 Day 2, and we meet interesting projects like currency.com. How are you doing, Ivan?
Hi, yeah, very well, thank you.
All right. So currency.com is a tokenized exchange regulated in Belarus. Perhaps you can explain, how did it all start?
Yeah, so we're really interested in blockchain and the merging of traditional markets and digital assets. And we've created an innovative exchange that allows people to use their crypto to invest in other assets that have now been tokenized.
And there's more than 1,000 tokenized assets currently since January on this exchange.
That's right. So we launched with a limited offering of 150. We put that out to a pilot group of very influential people in the crypto community. Started off with a waiting list. We had 150,000 people in the first month sign up on the waiting list. So there's obviously a bit of interest, a bit of demand. It's obviously quite an innovative thing. And we've been working really hard on the feedback we've had from our community. We get lots of feedback, lots of really engaged users. And of course, one of the things they want is more assets. We're about to be launching Litecoin. We've got more crypto assets that will be kind of things you can use as collateral to invest in other things, which is one of the services that we allow people to do. And we now have tokenized forms of lots of the world's major shares, major commodities, major indices.
So for the wider public, you have Uber, which is like listed on the Nasdaq, and then you have an Uber tokenized version on your exchange. How does that work actually regulatory-wise?
So the regulation in Belarus is bespoke regulation that has been designed to accommodate the regulation of cryptocurrencies and crypto exchanges and specifically tokenized assets. And we're providing a service where if someone comes to our exchange, they can buy a tokenized Uber share, and that's an ERC20 compatible token. And by default, that will be stored on our exchange in custody. We put a huge amount of effort into the security of our custody solution.
It's all AML, KYC approved.
Yeah, so the regulation in Belarus is very strict, and we need forms of identification before anyone can do anything with us. We don't have a kind of a low threshold where you don't need to identify yourself. So before you buy any crypto with us or any tokenized assets, you need to be fully identified. And then if you're depositing Bitcoin onto the exchange to invest your Bitcoin in an Uber tokenized share, then we'll be looking through the history of that Bitcoin and where it's come from, and using some of the leading providers out there to
do some chain analysis.
Correct. It's identifying the trail, putting a risk score against that.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many users? Maybe you have some numbers, users.
Yeah, so our user base is growing daily, and of that 150,000 people that signed up to the waiting list, we've seen thousands of those convert into users, and we're seeing our volumes doubling every month. So you start small and you're growing at a rapid rate, so that's great to see.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it's ERC20 based, Ethereum network based. One of the challenges is, of course, I can also sell my ERC20 token on a decentralized exchange. How do you see this topic? I mean, there's still this way of circumventing the system.
So for us, when we receive an asset from a customer, again, we'll be looking at where it's come from. And right now, the regulations are still evolving a bit about how you can transfer a tokenized security between individuals. And so we're working on some of the emerging ERC standards for having whitelisted wallets to be able to identify all the parties involved in a transfer of an asset. And that's going to be a really important part of how governments and regulators get more comfortable with this token representing a real underlying asset with real value in a way that still gives them oversight of who owns that thing, where it's come from. So we're really excited about a decentralized future. Right now we're quite a centralized exchange for reliable price discovery and liquidity. And we've looked at a lot of the technologies available to expand into a more decentralized world in the future. So that's something we're really excited about. I think it's still very evolving and emerging. In 3 years' time, all these problems will be solved. Right now, we're trying to push at the forefront of what can be done and kind of take that forward.
And the liquidity of the exchange, you work together with Capital as a market maker. Perhaps you can tell something about that.
Yeah, so Capital is a MiFID II regulated firm, regulated by the FCA in the UK and SISEC in Europe. And that has lots of relationships with counterparties for liquidity, for market data. And they make the price on the currency exchange to reflect the underlying market price. So when you buy that asset, you'll be able to sell it back to the exchange at the current price. We've got a special promotion to help people understand how this works here at the conference. So if you go to currency.com/money2020, you'll be put in a prize draw and someone will be drawn out of the hat to win 10 tokenized Uber shares.
All right. Last question. How are you? What are your picks in the market right now? Your personal picks? Perhaps you can tell something about that.
So I think the big FANG stocks are obviously very interesting. I think you've got a bit of a challenge there with regulation. You know, we saw them crash yesterday, down 5%. A lot of the big US shares, with the sort of threat of privacy and how dominant some of the big players are. But I think, you know, it's really hard to see companies like Amazon being slowed down. You know, they keep expanding into new markets. So I think, you know, those tech players are they're eating more and more industries over time, and it's hard to see them slowing down.
Can they be the future banks? I mean, you have this global coin of Facebook. Do you foresee a future of tech companies becoming banks? Or?
I think that's an emerging trend that we're going to see a lot of effort go into over the coming, you know, a year or two. I think the partnership with Apple and Goldman Sachs is really interesting. I think Amazon have got an enormous marketplace and are always looking at emerging trends. And you know, if you have an Amazon coin, you know, suddenly you've got, you know, hundreds of millions of users and a big marketplace where that coin can be exchanged for value.
Okay. So thank you very much, Ivan, for your time, and all the best with currency.com.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.